Well, I got a little unfortunate call and that cut off my video, and I just kept on going for a while. So I've recreated the graph a little bit, and we'll kind of start where we were. So we had seen that there was two possible equations. So we knew that, for example, that we had f of x equals 3 sine x minus 40. And we also knew that it was g of x equals 3 cos x minus 130, because it could be, this could be the start of a cosine. Right, that could be the start of cosine of x, which is now been moved 130 over. And we could continue, of course. So for example, this over here is not really the start of a sine, because the start of a sine is in the middle going up. This is in the middle going down. So what we have over here, this is kind of a starting point of negative sine of x. So it's the sine of x that's been flipped. So we'll call that h of x. And we could say that h of x is negative 3 sine, and it's going to be 220 to the right. So that's where the negative sign would start. Or this is the start of negative cos x. And that one would be, we'll call it j, because I don't like i's. So j of x is, so that's going to be minus 3 cos. And if that's cos, then we've moved over right 310. But that's not all. For example, this graph continues over here. And that's in the middle going up. So that's actually starting, that's actually a sine x graph again. So that's another start of the sine x. So we could say that the sine x graph starts over here. So that's the start of the sine x, and it's been moved right 400. So that's the same thing as saying that k of x is 3 sine x minus 400. Or we could start over here, and that would be that, so we could say there is that we have, it's at the top, so that's a cosine graph. So that's 3 cos of, and it's moved left 230, x plus 230. Or we could start over here, and we could say, well, that's the start of a, so that's the start of a cos x, that's the start of a minus sine x. And we could say that L m, and that's going to be, so it's negative sine minus 3 sine x plus 140. And the neat part is, of course, that all of these equations are to give the same graph. Every single one of these equations is identical. That's the exciting thing about periodic functions. Let's do one more, a little bit shorter. So over here, what we want to do is we want to come up with two equations for this one. There's, of course, millions and millions of equations, but we're going to come up with two. So we know that the middle is 3. The amplitude is 5 away. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make it a sine graph first. So a sine graph is going to start over there. So the answer for that one is going to be that f of x equals 5 sine, and we've gone left 10 in this case, x plus 10 plus 3. Or, if I wanted to have a cosine graph, that would be a cosine graph that's been moved right 80. So that would be 5 cos x minus 80 plus 3. Or, maybe I'm going to start over here, and that's a negative cos graph. And h of x is going to be minus 5 cos x minus 260 plus 3. And kind of like the other example, we could just keep on going and have many, many, many different equations, and they would all be correct.